Welcome to another episode of our mini podcast, I Built a Company That Makes a Difference by B1. Here we talk to founders of sustainable businesses to get their takes on how and why they started their companies and lessons learned along the way. But today, as a very special treat, we're going to talk to some consumers. We're doing a small series where we talk to sustainable shoppers to find out how they make purchasing decisions, what is important to them, how they think about brands, and how they go about making decisions about where they shop, what they buy, and then how often. So today, I'm joined by Tammie Esselmont, a young activist for the environment who's actually starting up her own business, and we'll have her back on the show to talk about that when it's closer to launch time. But for today, we're going to talk about the purchasing habits and thoughts, try to get into the mind of Tammie. So Tammie, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
Great.
Should I talk a bit about myself?
Yeah, sure. Let's start by,
Awesome.
yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're based, and what you're doing.
Cool. Well, I'm in Cardiff. Well, I'm more in the valleys than that. I'm in Blackwood. So in the Welsh valleys, you could say. And I'm very active in the environmental sector. I enjoy doing a lot of different volunteering because I only work part-time. So a lot of my time is spent then volunteering. So I'm a member of the Woodland Trust Youth Council. So I do a lot of work across the UK with the Woodland Trust Youth Council, and I'm also part of the Gwent Wildlife Trust Youth Group as well. And these are both massive groups for the UK that do a lot of conservation work. I also volunteer for Greenpeace, and I've participated in a protest with Surfers Against Sewage. It was great, just going out for a swim in the beach and then just being able to put up signs, and yeah, it was really fun. So I do a lot of different things, like kind of to engage in the environment. And one of the things, of course, I do is changing my own daily habits as well. So my eating, my spending, the way I'm kind of consuming things in general. And as well as this, I'm also trying, as you said before, to start a business, a sustainable business in my artwork. So that's kind of in the making at the moment. I also do a little bit of pet sitting on the side. And of course, I have my part-time job, which is with Newport Mind, which is a mental health charity. So I've been told I have a portfolio career type thing because I like to do lots of little things and big things all at the same time.
Yes, you have you're very busy. You've got a lot going on, which is fantastic because you're young and you have the energy to do that. So that's wonderful. And
Thank
it sounds
you.
like you're well on your sustainability journey as a
Oh yeah,
consumer and just as a human on this planet.
100%. I'm all down for it. I'm trying to get to the point where I'm like one of those aesthetic reels you see on Instagram where someone's got like drawers and drawers of like the little containers that they refresh and herbs and all stuff they grow at their house, and I will get there eventually. My house is slowly turning that way.
So then just so we can, because this is a bit of a window into customer discovery, let's just put you into a little bit of a box just in terms of your generation. So I'm not going to ask you specifically your age, but are you above or below 20?
I'm above 20.
Are you above or below 30?
I'm below 30.
Awesome. So you're in your 20s, you're a young activist. Can you talk to us about when your consciousness about climate change and your desire to get into activism started?
Ooh, definitely. It was in uni when I went to university. I had not really had a thought about the environment during the teenager years. I remember grumbling at my stepdad, who was like, "You need to take the sellotape off the wrapping paper so we can recycle it." And I was grumbling, doing it, not understanding properly, or not wanting to understand the meaning behind that. So yeah, I kind of went to uni, found people that I actually related to properly versus in school, kind of like following trends and stuff like that. And through that, I then kind of discovered myself. I also split off from a long-term relationship that predominantly the family ate meat, and it wasn't an issue, but I realized, oh my God, this is my opportunity to go vegetarian because meat's not always being presented to me all the time. So a lot of changes happened through uni, and then I had gone into uni without this kind of consciousness, I guess. So I was studying psychology, I was very interested in people. And then as soon as I started getting that kind of environmental side of me, I was like, right, how can I get my skills with people and apply that to the environment and how I can help, which is where a lot of my volunteering has come from now, and kind of like me trying to slowly kind of shift, to have more of an emphasis on the environment as opposed to people, but still doing both at the same time.
Do you remember the kind of first conscious thing or change that you made in your life? Whether it was like, "Ooh, okay, I'm going to consciously recycle everything that I possibly can," or "I'm going to cut back on meat," or whatever it was. Do you remember that first kind of conscious step that you made when you were in university?
So it really began when I passed a vegan stand with my ex-boyfriend, and he didn't have like the best reaction to it, but it wasn't anything like offensive or anything like that. He was just kind of like, oh, whatever. And I got really heated about it and didn't know why. And he kind of turned to me, it's like, why are you getting so intense about this? And I was like, yeah, maybe something's there. So when I went to uni, I was no longer with my ex, and I started to think about, wait, I could go vegetarian. I think that was the main big change for me, was going vegetarian, because it then impacted all my shopping habits. So yeah, that would be the big moment, I guess, is when I was like, right, I'm not going to eat meat. And then that was the first stage of me then going, what else can I kind of change?
That's not a small step too. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's a big one that, as you said, that affects a lot of your life, where you go out, what you can eat, what you can't eat, where you choose to shop, what you actually buy. So that's okay, that's a pretty big step. And can you just talk a little bit? I'm glad that you said you've studied psychology, because I want to get into a little bit of just a psychological question. You, as an individual consumer in this world, you're in Wales, you're in your 20s. How do you see your role in affecting climate change, sustainability? What do you feel as your job, your duty, your responsibility, your role in it? And you might say, I feel like I'm just one person. I have no responsibility. I have the feeling that you might say something differently, but how do you see yourself in this ecosystem?
100% the opposite to that. Like, I feel like it's very strongly that I have a big role I can play, like everyone else does. And I think collective action is so, so powerful. So if I'm doing these changes and I'm encouraging others to do changes, it's just a snowball effect that happens. And I think it is a shame that like from my age as well, I've kind of been born into this. Like it just kind of, I awakened into this kind of scenario, and it's like, whoa, this wasn't my fault. Why has this all happened? And it's like, well, I could either like complain about it, or I could just adapt and do something good with my life. So that's what I'm kind of going for, that more positive outlook of what can I change? How can I change? And I'm also treating it a little bit, and this does not take away the seriousness of it, but a little bit like a game. Like I'm trying to beat my high scores and do a little bit more each day or each week. And that really does help me, because then I can help make a difference, which I have a lot of power to do, but in a positive light, by recommending things to others, not making people feel guilty, and by slowly changing my life habits sustainably and prolonged, rather than me panicking, trying to do it all at once and just failing. So I think, yeah, my role in this is very much like a positive influence for myself, my life, and for other people, which I'm very happy about. That very much can summarize my whole life. And if I, now in my 20s, grow up and I keep doing these things, that lifelong impact then is really powerful as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how do you what is your relationship with consumer brands in general? That's kind of a big question, and I'll give you an example. I don't want to anchor your answer, but I'll give you some examples. Do you feel like there are it's kind of a hate relationship with consumer brands? You obviously need to buy things. We live in a Western society. You need to buy things. Do you feel like you're constantly being taken for a ride? You would rather not? Is it you found brands that support you and your lifestyle, or there are not enough options like this? How do you feel your relationship with, in general, consumer brands is?
Ooh, I like that. It can be like rocky, but most of the time I take a very positive outlook. I think the main thing I struggle with is other people's relationships with brands. So
Right.
brands I will generally avoid. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, just go there. And I'm like, oh, but that's a really bad one.
Mhm.
How do I kind of lightly help this person perhaps make better decisions? But obviously that's in my view, better decisions. I understand these things
Mhm.
are relative. But anyway, it's the idea to me that in my life, usually I can find what I need to find because I do enough research. And by
Right.
enough research, I don't mean like I sit down for hours and I'm typing furiously. I mean, I just look into it. And there might be some decisions I'm making that aren't 100% sustainable when I think they are, and I'm not trying to do like a perfectionist view with this. I'm just going with keeping it in my mind well, always when I'm shopping, and avoiding brands. If it's too cheap, it comes from something dirty. 100%, like it shouldn't be that cheap. So keeping that in my head means that I'm not feeling salty that, oh, I have to spend more on these sustainable products. It's like, actually, you're just paying normal money. You're just not paying for labor of perhaps people who are disadvantaged, etc., etc.
So
So
that's a really good point that you said. My next question is about key factors that you consider when you're making purchasing decisions with kind of a layer of sustainability over the top of it, or fair wages or impact. Let's say impact purchasing. So one is a key factor is price,
mm,
in price sensitivity in the down direction, saying this is too cheap. This doesn't make any
mm,
sense. Not only were corners cut here, but there's some unethical things going on in the production of this good because it shouldn't be this cheap normally. What are some other factors that you consider?
yeah, that's a really big one. Other factors I'll consider is how it's advertised as well. And say if the people advertising, do they have like an Instagram page slash like a website that can read like about their, what do you call it? The goals they have
Their
essentially.
values, their
The values,
missions.
that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, when you read about the values on their stores and you can like see that they care, they've put time into this. And then whether, if it's recyclable or not, and if it is, like, if it isn't, sorry, do they address that? Because I've seen some packets that they say not recyclable and I have a little thing next to it saying we're working on it. I'm
Right,
more likely then to buy it because I'm like, okay, I might actually see a change. However, if
right,
that was on there for the next 3 years, I
right,
might be like, actually, you've said that for ages and nothing's
right.
changed. So yeah, I think it's transparency is a big one.
Transparency. Okay, good. Are there any brands that you think, high street brands or local brands that you think are doing a particularly good job?
Yeah, there's quite a few actually. I think
Oh,
Wild
good.
is doing really well.
Okay.
A Cheeky Panda I've also, that's where I
Right,
get my product roll from.
right.
Ecova, because you can get that in the store, in the superstore, and Ocean Saver as well.
Yeah.
They're really good. Decathlon's a really good clothing store. I've actually
Okay.
gone to them quite a lot. And Nova is where I get my toothpaste tablets from, and the only toothpaste tablets so far that I've really like, they haven't failed in terms of like how it actually feels to use them as well. Because obviously with sustainable products, sometimes it's hard to get that perfect like simulation of something that isn't sustainable. And it takes time, and sometimes it's a bit of a growing thing for everyone as we learn how to create sustainable products. But yeah, those um businesses are doing really well, I think. And I
Okay.
love the way that a lot of them advertise. Not all of it is advertisement, but yeah, a lot of, especially Wild's advertisements, they are literally wild. So yeah, it catches your attention. And Decathlon's advertisement, it's quite peaceful, and like it like calls to the meaning behind being sustainable rather than just this is sustainable and recyclable. It's like the bigger picture.
Right. So advertisement transparency that goes then to transparency of values. This is what we're attempting to do with this product.
Mm,
Can you say that
yeah.
toothpaste brand again? Because I've been looking for toothpaste.
Oh, Nova, they're toothpaste
Nova.
tablets. Nova, I think it's Nova.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really good.
Okay.
Because they come in like a little metal case and then it
Yeah.
doesn't get any water in it. Because I've had them
Right.
come in like a bag and then it got wet and then they're all mushy. And yeah, so I really do like Nova.
I'm going to try to introduce toothpaste tablets to my toddler who just loves more or less eating toothpaste. So I'm going to try to introduce tablets to my toddler. So, a
Oh,
lot
it's
of
Nowa, Nowa, not
no,
Nova.
spell it for me.
Nowa,
Noah. Okay.
Nowa.
Got it. A lot of our B1 listeners and community members are, just as you said, trying to fold sustainability into their everyday lives, particularly with their kids, and just
Mhm.
try to do better than yesterday. Like for whatever
Yeah.
reasons, financially, space, bandwidth, you can't go from 0 to 100, right? Like if you're living in a small apartment in London, you can't suddenly start growing all of your own food, right? So something
Mm,
that's just folding those habits into their lives on a daily basis, and part of that is making better decisions when out consuming. So this is this is very helpful for everybody.
great.
What kind of things, or how do you look at e-commerce versus in-store purchasing?
Yeah, I do prefer in store, but then there's so many different factors to consider. So I guess it just depends on my own convenience, to be honest, because There are some stores near me. I have like a local grocer's. I have like a refill shop near me, like
Yeah.
locally, and then I
Yeah.
have the supermarket, of course. So going to those ones are quite good because it's just like the only transport I know is me getting there, apart from obviously wherever they came from. So for that, it's quite good, and I like being in person, being able to like properly look and feel and see the different things, especially in the refill shop where there's other things like soap bars and things like that. That's really useful, but a lot of my purchases does come online because I just don't feel like I have the convenience stores near me,
Hmm.
and it's hard to get enough of them yet. I think they're growing, like they're increasing, but it is hard to always have it local. So yeah, I don't think I have like a eco-friendly store in walking distance, really,
Okay. And what kind of things do
unfortunately.
you buy online? Is it clothes? Is it what kind of things that you can't find locally? And it really, sometimes we're in um deserts. There's no sustainable options within walking distance, like within a square mile. So that I would call that like a sustainability desert. So sometimes you don't have a choice but to order things online. What kind of things do you find you have to order online?
I like sustainability desert. That's quite fun. So I think online it's usually the more regular stuff that I need. So it'd be like toilet paper from Cheeky Panda or the wet wipes. Or if I want to dye my hair, I've noticed that so many hair dyes are absolutely awful. So I've
Hmm.
been looking and researching online for different hair dyes. Most of the time it's usually not extreme colors, but I'm finding some more brands out now, so I might be able to go a bit more wild. We'll see. I'm investigating, but I haven't finished my investigation yet. But yeah, online it's usually like Googling something I want. So for example, nail varnish remover is another one.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
basically when I go to refill something that is unsustainable in my house, I go, huh, are there any other sustainable options? And then I do a quick Google, have a look around. If I don't find anything immediately, I might wait a bit, or I might buy an unsustainable one and then try again. So that's usually how I do it. And it'll be general things like that, like just restocking things is usually what I'll go online for.
Can you take me through um your internal dialogue when you're on a shop and you have to balance sustainability with other factors like price, convenience, quality? What is going through your head when you're out and you're like, "Oh, okay. I need this thing," or, "Oh, there's a sustainable option." What's going through your head? Could you just externalize your internal monologue a little bit?
Ooh, I like that. Okay. So sometimes what I'll do is go to it might be before I go to the store, it's just the background stuff. I might go best eco-friendly blank. And then I'll find like a ranking thing. I won't take it as gospel, but I might then see what brands come up. And then if I see them again when I'm looking, then I might be more likely to purchase them. When I've got like two things literally in front of me, for example, well, it's online, I guess. So I got two different products. It's usually like where it came from. So how far is it gonna get like come to me? It could be a brilliant place, but in the US. And I'm like, well, there's no point for me ordering it from there. And then also like how they talk about the product in general. Are they emphasizing that? Are they selling it to me that it's sustainable? Am I being kind of dragged into the narrative, which I should be hopefully. And then also like the packaging associated with it. And then with cost, it depends on what stage I am, and maybe I might like one. Usually I will drop aesthetic and cost for sustainability. Occasionally it's come where I've had it's not really a weak moment, but in my head I've been like, oh no, I'll just go for the other one. I'll treat myself. But it's like a small little thing for me that happens
Sure.
rarely. Whereas most of the time I'll go, no, it's the cost. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look as nice, quote unquote.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but sometimes obviously that does play into it. So I think it changes depending on my mood, but most
Sure.
of the time that would be like my headspace.
Okay. All
That was
right.
really
That's
interesting
honest.
trying to like imagine myself doing it.
And in your opinion, what speaking to brands and businesses, what can businesses do to better understand? So this is a two-parter. Understand and then address the needs and preferences of sustainable shoppers, sustainable consumers, or consumers and shoppers who care about sustainability.
I mean, obviously, listening to this podcast is already a great way to
Yeah.
start. So, congratulations, everyone. But also, I guess it would be doing some research yourself into the people who buy your projects already. Like, perhaps you have like an Instagram page or you have some way of contacting them and asking them questions about the purchases and stuff like that. And doing research, on your own is really good, but maybe asking other shoppers, other people who are in the same situation as you, like how they do that as well. Because I don't have the complete answer personally, but it is definitely good to just to talk to others and learn as you go. And also it's okay if you get it wrong a few times, because at the end of the day, you're making a really good product. So it's gonna, it's gonna attract the attention. It's just then learning and tweaking that.
So then talk to me about that, because that one is really, really important for companies, especially companies who are looking to go more sustainable but are afraid of being canceled because of making a misstep. So you're saying uh, you as a consumer, you're a bit forgiving and transparency and going on a journey of improving, making something more sustainable is the most important thing. So for you as a consumer, if a brand makes a misstep but is on their way to doing something that you value, you're a bit more forgiving.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not gonna name out names, but even if I think like in my head a maybe bad quote
Hmm.
unquote
Hmm.
brand, if they started changing their tune, I would be a little bit apprehensive, of course, but
Hmm.
I would be happy for them. I'd be like, oh, thank God, they're doing something different. They're in my attention now, whereas before
Right,
I wouldn't even look twice at them.
right.
Like it allows them into the space of sustainability and for people to start taking note. And I think honestly, the way that the climate is going, the way that everyone's going, sustainability is just going up and up and up. So getting board on the train as early as possible is going to benefit you in the long run. Even if you get a little bit of, mishaps along the way, people are wanting this, people are encouraging this. So yeah, 100% worth it.
So then I'm going to ask you a little bit of an unfair question, which is for you to be a representative for your entire age group.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I know this is the setup is unfair. Uh, People, your peers, your age peers, um, do you think that they, in general, consider and think about sustainability when they're making purchasing decisions or going on in their everyday lives? Do you think, and this could be a binary yes or no, we're not going to go into degrees because then that would be really unfair, but do you think your age cohort sustainability is something that pops up in different ways or not really?
Hmm. I think in everyone that I know, yes. Obviously, I'm speaking as a sustainable consumer, and everyone I know may also feel like that. But I would say that a lot of young people are very anxious about the climate. It's their future, as well as obviously everyone else's future, because these impacts are going to happen soon. It's not necessarily in the generations in the future. But yeah, I think a lot of young people are scared and are feeling powerless. So having some power by able to say, actually, this brand's eco-friendly. Today I bought something that was actually helpful for the environment. It gives some empowerment, something we can do, because I think a lot of people are feeling a bit hopeless, and having that kind of hope that, oh, I'm making a difference by doing this, I'm actually making an impact. That's kind of a really good narrative to be able to put on your brand and say that by doing this step, you are able to make a difference. So yeah.
Tammie, I think you just developed several marketing campaigns for our brand. Seriously, that's amazing. Empowerment for young people. So
Mm,
the question, one thing that I find amazing, I mean, I am not in my 20s. I'm like several decades removed from my 20s. But one thing I love talking to young people, and by young people, I think young people for me are 30 and under, um, is that there is we can start the conversation much further along than maybe sometimes with my own cohort. And by that I mean we don't even have the conversation about whether climate change is real or not. We're starting already in the middle of the conversation. We can skip all of that. Climate change, as you said, young folks are in general worried about this. This is a worry. So it's not, we don't have to start with is this a hoax or is this real? We can start by what are we doing or what are some things that you can
mm,
do to make a positive impact and in the most convenient way for you. Because as we've been talking, sometimes convenience and just limit ability to make changes is a limiting factor. So that's what I love talking to young people. We had some interns um, a couple years ago, and they who were in their teens, and it was not even a question. It was
mm,
so and that really got me into the customer discovery, as you said, what you just suggested, brands talking to customers, engaging with folks to understand what they're worried about, what their concerns are. in essence, that's customer discovery. So we've gone into a big rabbit hole of customer discovery, talking to everybody that we can, brands, consumers, so that's why I love these kind of conversations. Um, and for young people, it's not even a question. Climate change is happening, and so therefore, what are all of the creative solutions? And
Mm.
that's what I love talking to your cohort of shoppers.
We also love being talked to, so it's a good trade-off.
That's such a good point. You do love being talked to. I love that. Tammie, this has been an excellent conversation. Thank you so much. Is there any parting words for brands or for other shoppers? Anything that you would want to pass on in terms of message?
I would just say keep going with it and be positive because I think a lot of it feels like too much. And I think we put too much pressure on ourselves all the time. So I think just taking it one day at a time and celebrating those successes, like actually celebrating. Like if you've done a purchase or you've sold a product that's sustainable, then actually give yourself a little pat on the back, a little clap or a little treat or something because every step you make matters. So that's what I would say to everyone out there, to be positive.
Wonderful
You got
message.
this.
Thank you, Tammie. This
No
has been a
worries.
fantastic
Yeah,
conversation.
it's been great.
Everyone in the audience, we'll see you on B1. We'll be back to talk to more shoppers like Tammie, but in the meantime, we'll see you on B1.